Cat's Ed midsole ski here. Nice to see shoe nice. It's time for another episode of Running Shoe Yay or Nay. I'm in some different surroundings here, as you've probably seen. A 4 running shoe blast for you today. What have I got? Will I be picking up the responsive and light on-running Cloudflow 4, the Under Armour Flow Velociti 3, we have the FRESHFOAMX Vongo 6 from New Balance, and we have the Nike Infinity Run 4 Goretex. Let's dig into these and find out a little more. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel, people. It is always appreciated you tuning in. I'm here in Manchester, getting ready for the Manchester Half Marathon, but running shoe yay or nay never ends. Let's get into it. I've got 4 shoes today. Will I be picking these up for review or not? Running shoe yay or nay isn't where I say that the shoe's great or it's trash. How would I know unless I pick the shoe up? Let's take a look at shoe number 1. We have a new shoe from On. This is the Cloudflow 4. Now this appears to have a more traditional upper than we've seen on some of the On shoes so far. They've gotten rid of some of those sort of lace loops and things, those other sort of additions that I've found sometimes don't always do that much. I think this time they're focusing on lightness and a more responsive ride than some of the other speedboard equipped Helion midsole shoes in their arsenal. Now I believe these shoes and some of the other On models are actually produced in factories where they also produce Nike shoes too. I have though always found On shoes to be of a very high build quality. Their just overall manufacture seems to be a little bit better than some of the other manufacturers at the moment. The Cloudflow 4 has an 8mm drop, a nice low weight of 235 grams, in the sample size of course. And there's a bunch more rubber on the outsole as well. Perhaps this makes it a little bit more of a versatile, like daily speed option, I suppose. If you want a shoe that you can use for a variety of different things, I think the Cloudflow 4 might hit the spot. A little bit more versatile than something like the Cloud Monster, maybe. A little bit more nimble than the Cloud Swift that I tested out recently. I think it was the overall heft of the Cloud Monster just stopped it from being the sort of daily use kind of faster pace shoe for me. Plus I think the upper wasn't to my liking at all, but here we have a more simplified upper on the Cloudflow 4 and that's right up my alley. I think with that type of technology underfoot but a better fitting upper on top, that's just going to make it a more usable shoe in my mind. I am keen to give more On shoes a whirl, and so are the viewers by all account. I think there's quite a lot of new viewers that have reached out to the channel. They seem to be enjoying a bit more variety in terms of the reviews recently. As such, for the Cloudflow 4, I think it's going to be a yay from me. I think the swift incremental improvements that we're seeing in some of the On shoes are really beneficial to the models. They're improving things from a functionality point of view rather than just sort of the looks and the overall kind of colorways. They're not changing things just for the sake of it, and I really do like that. Shoe number 2. This time we're with Under Armour. They've got a brand new version of the Flow Velociti out. I think this is the 3rd edition now. I have tried 1 and 2. I did enjoy those, and I was hoping that we'd perhaps have a bit of a lower weight iteration this time around, but it doesn't look like that's the case really. We now have a sort of knit style material for the upper, which might be great news to you or perhaps a bit of a letdown. We have mesh before on the upper of this model, and I think they've managed to reduce the weight of the shoe a little bit. I think the sample size is about 249 grams this time around. It's still an 8mm drop, so I don't think an awful lot has changed in terms of the profile of that midsole. In fact, I think the midsole and outsole on the Flow Velociti 3 here are pretty much exactly the same as the last two. It was good enough on most surfaces that I would say avoid anything with debris or lots of loose dirt, as the small cutouts quickly got filled up and it diminished the outsole grip a little bit. At £135 here, it's quite a change up really. I think if you liked the upper on the last shoes, it could be quite a different kettle of fish. The Team Royal and Mystic Magenta is quite an alluring colourway, it has to be said. I was hoping though for a bit more of a loss of weight in this model really, just to make it more of a speed shoe. I think the V2 in my size was about 278 grams, so if the sample size is around about 245 or 250, then it's going to be practically the same in my size. Maybe even a little bit heavier. Maybe it's the upper material that's accounting for the weight there, but either way it's a nay on the Under Armour Flow Velociti 3 for the time being at least, until I can find out some more info. Shoe 3. Now that FRESHFOAM VONGO is one of those shoes that I've always been a bit bewildered by from New Balance. Very heavy shoe, it's a stability model too. In this new 6th version we've got 300 grams in the sample size with a 6mm drop. Blown rubber outsole as per usual on the New Balance offerings. And there's quite a plush looking upper too. Already that's a big alarm bell for me, that's going to be extremely heavy in my size. The shoe's midsole features quite a considerable rocker from the heel through to the forefoot, almost Hoka-like in its shape. I do certainly feel that this one is aimed at those people who do overpronate. It features a specific midsole tailoring there on the medial side, making it a little bit firmer in that area, then softer in the lateral portion. Almost seems to be like an amplified version of the 1080 V13, just with a bit more in the upper to facilitate that plush feel, with a booty construction inside to minimise rubbing and any discomfort on those longer miles. New Balance have increased the number of grooves that they've cut into the outsole of the shoe. I think they're trying to maximise the overall flex there. Though I think the price and intended use case here are going to make this one a nay for me. The Vongo 6 is coming in at 160 earth credits, which is a really heavy price for a heavy shoe. Those stability elements increasing the weight of the shoe over 300 grams. Looks quite hefty in size, and I have far too many other options right now for that type of shoe. I think that Mercury Blue and the 30 watt colorway is very nice looking, but that is simply not enough to make me want to pick this one up. I think it's just too much of a niche offering for me to do it justice. So a nay on the Vongo 6 for the time being. I think it's going to be one of those for the long range stability people. That simply isn't me this time around. Shoe 4, last one up for today. Nike have released a version of the Infinity Run 4 in a Goretex edition. It could supply you with an excellent winter tool here to guide you through November and December. In fact, there was a lot of rain here in Manchester in October. The black, white and reflective version is perhaps amongst the easiest to keep clean, though it's 175 earth credits. What are they playing at? That's a colossal price for this type of shoe, really. The upper's switched up to a Goretex material, and you've got the Storm Tread rubber patterns on the outsole. That's going to improve things in terms of wet weather traction and grip. Though I have to say, running around in the wet conditions today in the Deviate Nitro Elite 2, and I had absolutely no problems whatsoever with Puma grip. And that's like a road racing shoe. So do you really need Storm Tread? I'm not so sure. I do find with Goretex uppers that they do stop water from penetrating in, but once the water's got in, there's not really anywhere for it to escape. So yeah, I have tried a few Shield versions of Nike shoes over the years, some of them better than others. I still think the Pegasus Trail 4 Goretex is probably the best bet this time round, at least this year anyway. And it's a darn sight cheaper than this Infinity Run 4 Goretex model as well. Yes, it's got React-X, and I do want to try that at some stage, I have to say. But when you've got reasonably cushioned options like the Vomero 17 coming in that bit cheaper, you've got ZoomX and Cushlon 3.0 there, I don't really feel that many people are going to opt for this 4th version of the Infinity Run, especially for like winter running. I mean, at that price, it's not far off an Invincible Run 3, which has got loads more cushion, very different shoe, yes. I don't really feel in England, in sort of more built-up areas, that you actually really need a shoe like this. As I say, those Puma offerings just seem to do the business anyway. Heaven knows what they put into this stuff, but it does work very well. So it's a nay on the Infinity Run 4 Goretex from Nike for the time being. Give me your thoughts on these 4 shoes down in the comments. Hopefully you guys can't hear it, but there's somebody doing some really bad karaoke nearby, and that brings me on very smoothly into the transition to the musical interlude. I'm in Manchester today, and being in Manchester, I think you've got to include one of the greats, the Stone Roses. As a young lad back in 1989, I can remember hearing Fool's Gold for the first time. It was a really big influence for me because it had the funky drummer style breakbeat in the background, so you had these sort of dance elements as part of the percussive and rhythmic element of the song, and then of course awesome guitar playing, very sort of psychedelic style with wah and sort of delay effects. It just made this wonderful soup there. Really cool vibe to all of their stuff, really. It had just about everything that I enjoyed about music, like in one place. I think I had like a 12-inch version of Fool's Gold. It was well over 9 minutes if I remember. And I think being like a 10-year-old dude at the time, I was the only person sort of around my way at least that liked the Stone Roses. They weren't really a group that loads of my other peers were into. But even for me now, today, it still has everything that I want to hear. So Fool's Gold by the Stone Roses. I'll be hitting the streets in Manchester tomorrow. I think I'm airing towards the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 2 now. Been running in that shoe like quite a few times this week, and it just really seems to hit the spot for me, so I think that's what I'm going to go for. Thanks for tuning in, people, always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you.